Hey, it's James from Marketing for Restaurants here, and welcome to episode 160 of Secret Sauce, the restaurant marketing podcast, managing the Great Resignation in your restaurant.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success. Your secret sauce.
Hey team, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a little while since we released the last episode, but now we're well and truly back into it. If you haven't had a listen to that, this has actually been, I've been quite surprised actually. So it was optimizing your Google My Business account for fun and profit. It's actually proven to be one of our most popular podcast episodes in probably the last 12 months. So it really does highlight just how not only important, because we have some podcasts that I think are really important for people to listen to, but don't get a lot of love. But there's a lot of interest out there from a lot of businesses. And I think it's because of the growing realization just how important your Google My Business account is to the profitability of your restaurant. So if you haven't had a listen to that one, definitely duck in. There's some really good tips in there. And it is one of the things that we find, I've seen it before, where someone says, you know, our business is really quiet, and you have a look and it says their Google My Business account, which they haven't claimed, it says this business permanently closed. So definitely have a look at that. Because if Google thinks your business is permanently closed, you're probably not going to be getting a lot of traffic to your website, which means you're probably not going to be getting a lot of traffic in the restaurant. So first off, what is the Great Resignation? Some businesses have found that they have had a larger than normal increase in the number of people who are leaving, who are quitting. And this is backed up by some statistical evidence across a wide range of countries. And this is the interesting thing. It's actually a global phenomenon. At our company, we tend to have really long retention of our team if they last 12 months. So we're fairly tough on new employees, but once people make it through their first 12 months, we tend to view them as keepers. And so the retention, the average age of someone within our company is around 7 years, if we exclude those who've only been with us for less than 12 months. That's really high in our kind of IT/marketing kind of business. And that's something that we're really proud of. Interestingly enough, we have had a couple of people leave in the last 12 months, which is really quite high because prior to this, it had probably been about 4 years since we'd had someone who'd been with the company for a long period of time leave. Now, the interesting thing, when we looked at that, we thought, oh, you know, is this something that we should be worried about? The interesting thing is that this isn't the Great Resignation for us. It's actually Great Resignation or issues with their partners that caused them to leave, which I think is something quite interesting. But it also goes to highlight the huge issues that the pandemic has created for small businesses, large businesses, people in general. And this goes to the reasons why people are resigning from their jobs. And the first one is the psychological impact. Many people are questioning what it is that they do in their day-to-day job. And potentially they're looking for something new to do, or they're looking for a higher meaning of life kind of job. Many people that I've spoken to have said, you know, is this what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? I don't think so. There are bigger things to do than the job that I've been doing. And industry by industry, there's a whole range of nuances around this. So in face-to-face jobs, so hospitality, hotels, many of them have struggled to retain their jobs, which has meant that just to be able to survive, they've gone into different industries. Then you've got jobs like healthcare, which has been under incredible pressure, and people have left because of the fact that they've burnt out. The workload in many jobs has been incredible. For many countries around the world, there's been a cessation of immigration. So many jobs that would traditionally be done by people who were new to a country And this is something that we're seeing in the UK, the United States, when we talk to our customers, and definitely in Australia, there just hasn't been that immigration, whether it's skilled immigration or non-skilled. So IT jobs, many IT jobs are done by immigrants. That has dried up, and that's placed significant pressure. Hospitality, a huge, many restaurants are run with immigrant labour, people who are new to the country. Particularly cuisine-based restaurants, so Indian restaurants, Chinese restaurants, they would take the immigrants from that country and they would work in that restaurant. That, because of the fact that we haven't had that immigration, it's made it very difficult to be able to find those people. And this has put the workload up in those businesses. And many people have left because of the fact that they found the workload to be incredibly difficult to manage. We've also seen a phenomenon where people who could retain a job during all of the lockdowns. And so once again, we're talking about Victoria here, which are the lockdown kings of the world, Melbourne being the most locked down city. I'm not sure how we got there, nothing to be really proud of, but lockdowns around the world. Now, many people who saw COVID coming, they saw the lockdowns. If they were able to retain a job, and they were of retiring age, many people didn't retire just because of the incredible amount of uncertainty that occurred. So what we're seeing is people who are of retirement age, who are financially able to retire, are now retiring as a little bit of certainty comes back into their life as we start to address what a COVID normal looks like. And obviously, as we look around the world, it's very different in many countries. Today's an auspicious day in Victoria because it has just been announced that as of tomorrow we'll be able to come into work and we won't have to wear masks in the office. So that's pretty exciting. The returning to work has also created a significant impost to many people. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, the amount of flexibility for those who were able to work from home people have wanted people to be coming back into the office. That has dried up. And so those people are quitting because they want to retain that flexibility. Also, I was talking to a customer yesterday and they had 10% of their staff quit because they didn't want to get vaccinated. So in Victoria, there's a mandate that you need to be vaccinated if you're going to go into certain situations. And a big one is going to work. And 10% of their workforce didn't want to be vaccinated. Now, this is interesting. We're talking about a state where 90% of people are vaccinated. They were unlucky enough to have 10% of their workforce, and they employ quite a few people, but 10% of them quit because of the fact that they wanted to get the vaccine. The changing nature of work, which is one of the things that we mentioned, once again, in a restaurant, in a hospitality environment, less likely because of the fact that it's one of those face-to-face organisations, but anyone doing office work, IT work, very much have been working from home, have been doing it remotely. Now when people want them to come back into the office, there is a significant amount of resistance because a lot of people liked working in the office. Now, one thing that I find really interesting is that we've got a mix of people in our company. Some of them are really keen to get back into the office because they miss being with the team. And that's one of the things that I'm proud of in our company is the team effect that we get. And it is just not the same if you're trying to do everything over Microsoft Teams. And the other thing is that people are talking about the fear of getting COVID. And this is particularly in states or countries where the vaccination rates are still quite low and there is a fair chance of getting COVID. Now, we don't have any customers in Russia yet. We don't have any customers in Russia, but significant number of cases, significant number of hospitalizations and deaths because their vaccination rates are still quite low. We are seeing that with customers in the United States, where some states still have vaccination rates that aren't really as high as they should be. The thing that's weighing on a lot of people's minds is just how many more people are going to resign. And the theory is that there is going to be an ongoing continuation of people resigning. Now, I don't actually think that that's going to be the case because the recovery from COVID is actually going to be fairly tortuous. Many countries have had significant government support for businesses. Some of those businesses are going to go belly up. Some of those businesses will lay off staff. So there's probably going to be significant uncertainty as we move forward over the next 18 months, 2 years. We're also starting to see inflation, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Inflation is going to be a really big thing. We're seeing big inflation numbers in the United States. We're expecting to see them in the United Kingdom. We're definitely going to see them in Australia as a series of inputs become more and more expensive to buy. And we're already starting to see that. So particularly in the hospitality industry, where it's really difficult to get people, there are significant sign-on bonuses. We're starting to see people paying above the award rate for all of the roles within a restaurant, even the dishwashers, just because of the fact that it's really hard to get people. Partially because people wanting to leave the industry, partially because of the lack of people to be able to do that work because immigration's dried up. Now, not only are we seeing increase in resignations, which you may or may not be seeing in your business, but we're also seeing it being really hard to hire people. And this is creating significant pressure on a lot of businesses. So there just aren't the people out there, because if it's a job that a lot of immigrants have done in the past, that means that they're not available to do it. If it's a job that's actually quite busy, quite hectic, working front of house in a restaurant, maybe there's less people who want to do that. And this is one of those things that's actually feeding the Great Resignation, is increases in wages. We're seeing this very much in a lot of restaurants where they're having to pay significantly above the award rate just to be able to get people to come into work. This is something that's quite new, and this is driven directly by the scarcity of people to do that job. And this creates an insidious cycle. When you've got a scarcity of work and people are starting to put their prices up, then you start getting people who are resigning so that they can get higher pay at another location. That feeds this cycle of people becoming increasingly desperate to hire someone, so they're putting the price up. For many businesses, for many restaurants, that is not something that they're going to be able to do. Or are they? And this is where what we need is a fairly complex look at the problem of hiring and retaining staff so that we can manage those costs within the organisation. So the Great Resignation, which you may or may not be seeing in your business, and you may or may not see in your business moving forward, has a range of reasons why people are resigning. What is it that we can do to manage that? And I've broken the tips down across, and this is what we're seeing with our customers, other business owners, and people who have left their jobs. I'm always out there talking to people, finding out what's going on. There's a few things that we can do. Firstly, communicate openly. 2, create a vision. 3, look at pay. 4, perks. And 5, efficiency. So what I'll do is I'll break them down and we'll go over each one of those individually. The first thing I think is really important, and that is to communicate openly with your team. You want to be getting their feedback. Are they thinking about leaving? Are they happy in their job? What is it that you could do to make them happier? Find out what the pain points are. Find out if they're enjoying the work. It's a lot harder to retain people when they're actively looking for work, when they've made that decision that working in your business is not right for them. We do exit interviews with everyone who leaves our company, and one of the things that I find really interesting is there's some people who don't want to leave but are leaving because of a problem, and it's a problem that they haven't voiced. And then you say, but we could have done this, and then you can see the look on their face. It's like, oh, I didn't think that you would do that, or I didn't think that that was an option. And it's like, well, yes, it was. Particularly for a valued employee who's been with you for a long time, you've invested a lot of time and effort, they've got a lot of intellectual property, they're worth quite a bit to you, so you might want to retain them. For those that you want to retain, knowing what the issues are that they've got, if any, and being able to come up with a plan, if you can dramatically increase the retention that you've got. And I don't think that this Great Resignation, I don't think that that's any different to any other time. You need to be sitting there talking to the people to find out what it is that they want and need, and having a chat to them about what you want and need, and trying to meet in the middle with something that's going to work for everyone. And so just FYI, those exit interviews, they can be really powerful. And I know we always take that on board, all of the feedback that we get, so that we can then look at, because our job as owners of the company, one of our key roles is to be the employer of choice of epic people within our area. And that's something that we work really hard on doing. Secondly, is around that vision. Even if you're the local hamburger store, what you want to be doing is you don't want to have people just coming in to flip hamburgers. You want to have it as being something that is a little bit more. So what does the hamburger mean for people? What is it that you're trying to translate? And there are some places that do a really good job of that. So I'm thinking of Nick Sorello from Nick's Pizza and Pub, takes a pizza restaurant, and there's a million of those, and creates a place where people can come and enjoy some family time. Something that's very meaningful, something that creates a vision that people want to be more around. And, having eaten there, that culture really does permeate everything that they do. And I think that if Nick can do that in a pizza restaurant, then I think all of us can look for that higher meaning in life, all of the time that all of our team are going to spend at work, and turn it from just flipping burgers or whatever the role is that you want those people to do. A great example of that was during a visit to the NASA Space Center in 1962. President JFK saw a janitor carrying a broom, and he stopped his tour, walked over to him and said, "Hey, I'm Jack Kennedy. What are you doing?" And the guy said, "Well, Mr. President, I'm helping put a man on the moon." That is a really great example of having a vision. Now, not all of us are helping to put a man on the moon. That would be pretty cool. But that is how that vision permeated everything within what NASA did. Because the obvious answer was, "Hey, I'm a janitor, I'm sweeping the floor." But no, he understood the mission of the organization, and he understood his part in it, and he understood why they were doing it. It was to put a man on the moon. Now, the next thing that we want to be looking at is pay. Do you need to put the pay up? It isn't the first thing that you should be doing. And I know that I've spoken to a lot of restaurant owners where they've said, we have to put the pay up. We have to put the pay up. And I know some people who've worked in those organizations, and you think, you know what, that's not a place that I would want to work at. You would have to pay me extra money to come in there because I don't think the work environment's that good. Have a great team, have a vision. They're the things that I think you should be starting at, because the pay, it may be something, if it's a significant difference between what you can get for the exact same work, then you're going to have a problem. So you do want to think about what it is that you're doing pay-wise. As we move into a high inflation environment, there's going to be more and more pressure on all business owners to increase the pay that they're giving to their team. But the interesting thing is, I know some places that don't pay very well at all, and yet they have really long-term retention. And I know some places that are pretty awful to work at. They have very high turnover, and yet the pay is really good. You can earn quite a lot of money there, but it's the nature of the work, it's the nature of the culture, it's the nature of the environment. That means that they have to pay a lot of money, and they still struggle with retention. So pay isn't the be-all and end-all of it. Now, one of the things that a lot of restaurant owners are saying is, how are we going to manage to pay when we've got all of these issues? We've got food costs that are going up massively. Well, you know what? The first thing that you're going to want to be looking at doing is, should you be putting your prices up? Too many businesses don't have that thinking, that process in place where they're going to annually review their prices. Now is a time that you shouldn't be reviewing your prices annually. I think you need to be doing it probably quarterly. What is the impact of the inputs into your business? What are your labor costs? How do you manage those labor costs? So having a look at that, having a look at what you're charging, and we're seeing it now, like the prices that some restaurants are charging now compared to what they were charging 18 months ago, they might be up 20, 25%, and they're doing a roaring trade. You need to be looking at the willingness of the market out there to be able to bear any price increase that you put out there. I think everyone should be looking at putting their prices up. That's going to increase the profitability of your business, or it might turn your unprofitable business into a profitable one. Some of that you're going to then be able to feed into some either pay directly, and we're going to talk about perks and flexibility next, but that's going to be one of those other things that you can do. It's very hard to have the perks in your business if you're unprofitable, because those perks, they do cost money. The next one, I think, is the efficiencies in your business. Now, let's just take your average restaurant as an example, because we've got lots of experience with what people are doing in the restaurant space to really look at their labor costs in an effort to increase profitability and to be able to actually just open the doors, given the fact that it can be really hard to get people, enough people to be able to put a shift out there, front of house, back of house. just to be able to keep the doors open. So there's a few things that people are doing. One, they're looking at the menu. If they've got items that are difficult to prepare, they're cutting them off the menu. I have seen restaurants, full service restaurants, that have just gone to take away sandwiches, increase profitability, but they've done it not to increase profitability, just because the fact that they can't access the skills required to be able to prepare the meals that they were preparing, or they just don't have the time and the capacity to be able to do that. What is it that's on the menu that could be let go? Because you need to be thinking about, if you've got a restaurant, your menu, that's part of the team. What is there that's not pulling its weight? And all businesses need to be thinking about that. What are the skills that you need to produce all of the goods and services that you require? Which ones aren't pulling their weight? What efficiencies can you get by culling some of those goods and services? We've seen lots of automation being used in a lot of businesses. So table ordering is a big thing. You can decrease the number of people who are working front of house if you've got table ordering. And we're seeing this across a whole range of businesses. Lots of businesses are talking to us about ways that they can increase that efficiency. What is it that all of the people in all of your teams are doing, and how can you make them more efficient? This has been one of the most interesting things to observe over the last 18 months, is the way that people have critically looked at their business. They've done it out of necessity, but it's something that all business owners should be doing all of the time. Just because this is the way that we've always done it doesn't mean that this is the way that you should always do it. When COVID came in, when lockdown started, when they started to really struggle with labour, then people said, well, is there a better way that we can do this? I think there is. And whether it was a change in goods and services, whether it was a change in the way that they were delivered, whether it was a change in their customer set, and a lot of restaurants went from dine-in only to delivery only, just because that was all it was that could be done. Great innovation, great efficiencies to be extracted from many businesses. And that's what we need to be thinking, and it's what we need to keep doing moving forward. So the last thing that we wanted to look at was some of the perks. And I think now the obvious one that we're seeing, and that is fueling a lot of the Great Resignation, when I talk to people who have changed jobs, they're saying, well, we were able to work from home. Now, this obviously doesn't work for a restaurant, but we were able to work from home. But now the boss wants us to come in. Well, if they were able to work from home, if they were productive, then why couldn't they continue to work from home? We, at our company, we bubbled our teams. So we had one team that worked 2 days a week from home, and the other team worked 3 days a week from home. Now that we have some flexibility, we're having conversations with everyone. Some people want to come into the office more often because they miss being with the team. Other people are quite keen to stay at home because they enjoy that flexibility. And this is one of the things that we've noticed, is that we will get people who, they might be skiving off a little bit during the day. However, they also might be working at 9 or 10 o'clock just to keep their productivity up, because they know that that's part of the bargain. They've got to be productive. They've got to be looking after our customers. And for some of our work, it doesn't need to be done in work hours. So they relish that flexibility because it means that they can do some things that they would normally be doing when they were working, and they can do that work a little bit later. But flexible work hours, that's something that all businesses can utilize a little bit more. We're looking at, potentially 9-day fortnights or 9 days every 2 weeks. So giving people a little bit of extra time. Now, we had a good discussion with our team about what is it that would be meaningful for you. And it's difficult because some people say, I want to be paid more. Other people say, well, you know what? I'm quite happy with what I'm getting now. I would really enjoy a little bit more time off. I would enjoy more holiday leave. So not only do we need flexibility within the workplace, we need flexibility within the team to be able to come up with a package that is going to work for everyone. Because I don't think, and we're definitely seeing it in our business, it's not one size fits all. It's now down to the requirements of individuals. Do they have a family? What is it that they want to be doing outside of work? How does that translate into what it is that they want to be getting out of the work bargain? And what is it that they want to deliver? There are some people who are more than happy to work and get paid a little bit more. There are other people who would prefer to have more time at home, more time to be able to take on holidays. So coming up with a package that's going to work for them, really important. What other perks are there that you can be offering to your team? So we've seen restaurants where people are able to bring their families in for a meal. The cost of providing a meal is actually really quite low, and being able to bring your family into the restaurant and provide them with a meal, that's an opportunity for them to go out. That's worth quite a bit. The cost of providing that perk, not really that much. So one of those things that you can be thinking about as a way of increasing the value proposition that you offer to each and every one of your employees. One of the perks that we're looking forward to reintroducing in our office is massages. So we would have someone in, they would do a corporate massage. So everyone who wanted a massage, they would be able to get like a 20-minute massage, which was nice and relaxing for everyone. And he would come in once every 2 weeks, spend a couple of hours here. Doesn't cost us a huge amount, and critically, it's a great little perk. And, we would open that up to customers as well, which, I think was really quite cool. Importantly, something that we are highly likely to be getting back into very, very soon, which is exciting. One of the things that I always like to say is that, the devil is always in the detail, and it's important to look at the data. I was having a look at some of the resignation data out of the United States, and a significant portion of the people who have resigned recently have been those who were due or overdue to retire. And one of the things that some smart companies are doing over in the United States is actually bringing in flexible retirement. So rather than having the cliff of on Friday you're employed, you're working 40 hours a week, and on Monday you're retired and that's it, never going to see you again, some companies are bringing in flexible retirement options so that people might go back to, or they might go to 30 hours a week or maybe 20 hours a week. And that is going to mean that you do a couple of really cool things. Firstly, you're going to retain access to the intellectual property that team member's got. Secondly, you're going to soften the blow. You're not looking for a full-time person. Now, in a small team where you've only got 5 people, that could be really, really, really important to retain those skills and give you a bit of time, because maybe they're going to work their way out over 12 months. Maybe it's going to be 5 years. For someone who is at retirement age, they might really benefit from the opportunity to maintain their social network for an extra 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, who knows how much longer they could work for. They're usually highly skilled people, and it's a great way for them to maintain their social connections, and it's a great way for you to be able to retain access to their skills and intellectual property, their corporate knowledge that they've got. Gently easing them out, providing a flexible retirement is a great way to be able to manage that. So there you have it. I think there's a couple of things. When we look at it, the Great Resignation may or may not affect your business, your team. What you want to be doing is having a chat to all of the people in your team to see what is going on with them and how likely are you to see this as being an issue. If you have had it already, then have a think about the remaining team that you've got. Have a think about the workload. Is this something that you need to back off a bit? Are you at the point now where you've got so much work that the workload on the existing team members is actually going to drive them to leave and only make the situation worse? Something that you're going to need to be thinking about. Retention, sitting down, coming up with a flexible retention plan for each and every member of your team is going to be really important. Have a think about the pay. Are you going to be able to give them pay rises? Do you need to give them pay rises? And if so, how are you going to do that? How are you going to maintain the profitability of the company? It's absolutely critical to be thinking about company profitability, because without that, your company's going to be dead and no one's going to have a job. We didn't mention that. That's actually one of the things that we're seeing, is that as some businesses are shutting their doors, then people are looking at it. And so there is quite a bit of churn in many of the industries. And obviously restaurant is one of those. A lot of people with a lot of really key skills have left businesses that were quite high performing, but they just closed down because they couldn't survive COVID. So there is a bit of talent out on the market. You need to be thinking about how you're going to attract that. Have a think about the way that you can structure the way that work is done, both from an efficiency point of view, how the labor that does turn up on a day-to-day basis, how can you make sure that they are doing the most important things, outsource everything else, and see if you can restructure the work so that it doesn't need to be done by them. Can you get someone with less skills doing that work, or does it even need to be done? Can technology augment that? And then have a think about the perks that are actually going to be meaningful to people. And this is one of the things that we've seen the companies, the tech companies where it's really cool. They've got a table tennis table. I don't think anyone really cares about that. That's not a reason that people are going to come into work. It's not a reason that people are going to stay, I'm staying in my job because I can play a bit of table tennis. No one's really tracking that as a key part of the flexible work package moving forward that they're looking for. You've got to be sitting down, talking to people, and most of the time, you're going to need to be flexible across your entire team, across all of the functions that you've got, because individuals have individual needs, wants, and desires. And creating a bit of flexibility so that you can cater for each and every one of your members is going to be really key in retaining them and avoiding the great resignation. So I hope that helps. I'm keen to hear from it. If, let me know if you're seeing it. If you're not, hit me up on LinkedIn, or get lots of messages every week from listeners about the podcast episodes that we're putting up. So is it being an issue for you? How are you coping with it? What are you seeing that's working? What isn't working? Really keen to hear from everyone. Next week, we're going to look at our process for hiring, because I think there's some things that we do that are actually pretty cool. We do joke about the fact that it is like going to the casino, because we've hired some people, and within our team, the joke is, never fall in love on the first date. Because we've fallen in love with so many people. It's like, oh my God, this person's amazing. Have a look at their resume. It's going to be amazing. They're going to come in, they're going to join the team, and it's going to be amazing. And you know what? It's not amazing. It's really quite ordinary. And you think, oh my God, who was the idiot that hired that person? Often it's me. In our process, we've done a lot of work to try and streamline that process. Every time we make a mistake, we go back to the process. How could we have fixed this? And there's lots of things that we have learnt from, so that we've got a process that I think is actually pretty good. And we don't use, as I mentioned at the start of the ep, we don't use job boards just because they are a hiring mechanism that I don't think work. We don't use recruitment companies either, because I'm not a big fan of them either. And we're going to talk about both of those when we talk about it. So hopefully there's some things that you can be thinking about in your restaurant today that are going to help you with your workforce issues. Big things. It's happening to everyone, so don't feel too bad about it. Talk to your team, provide a vision, look at the efficiencies that you can create in your restaurant. There's lots of things that you can do out there that can make it a little bit easier and a little bit less stressful, because this is the biggest issue that I find, is it just makes it so stressful for restaurant owners to be able to manage their business. That's about it. Next week, we're going to come back with a really interesting episode, which is going to be looking at hiring best practices. So some of the ideas that we use in our process, and we don't run a restaurant, but I think they're eminently useful, and they are some of the things that we see restaurant owners using to be able to build a strong and resilient and profitable team for your restaurant. This is something I'm really passionate about, because I think that your team is a fundamental part of the product that you offer for all of your customers. So it's really important to get it right. That's about it. Hopefully you'll have a really busy and profitable week. Bye.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe, or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits, or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.